Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of What's Randy Doing? Well, today, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be roasting coffee. All right, last time we installed an awning, and now we're underneath this awning in a nice cool shade, and I'm going to be roasting some African coffee beans. If you don't know what raw coffee beans look like, they're kind of green. They don't really particularly smell too good until after they've been roasted. But this is a Berundi coffee. I got about a half pound here. We're going to be roasting a half pound of beans. It's going to take about, I don't know, somewhere between 12 and 16, maybe 18 minutes. And one thing about roasting coffee is you can never leave it unattended. You always, you have to be aware of the nuances with roasting coffee. And I've got this Behmore machine. It's not that old. I've roasted probably about 5 or 6 times with it now, and you have to constantly push buttons and be aware of what's happening. Interesting to note is in the book it says this is a kitchen appliance and it is not to be used outdoors or in the garage. It actually says that. It says it's a kitchen appliance, it's meant to be used in the kitchen. However, the problem is, even though that has an afterburner, when the chaff starts coming off the coffee and it gets around the elements, you get smoke pouring out the back, and it has set off my smoke detector. And I had to call the fire department and say, hey, don't come, there's no fire, I'm just roasting coffee, unless you want to come for a cup of coffee. So anyway, I'm gonna get this thing preheated because you get a more robust roast. So we'll just get it started, let it warm up for about a minute and a half, shut it down, add the beans, and start roasting. Okay, so it just warmed up for a minute and a half. Now I'm going to take out the drum. Yeah, and it's hot. Oh yeah. And add the beans. Bear with me. Okay, adding beans. Opening tumbler. Need a few more hands. Okay. That's about a half a pound of beans. Alright, so a half pound's defaulting to 12 minutes. I'll do a program 3 with an African variety, and we're roasting. Alright, so we're a little over 1 minute into the roast. You can see what's happening. And what I'm going to do is, there's a couple terms in roasting coffee. It's called first crack and second crack. So as it's roasting, the beans are drying out, and they're finally going to get to a point where they crack. And you'll be able to hear it. And it's the first point they crack. That's why they call it the first crack. And you can take the coffee off then, grind the beans, let it rest, grind the beans, and then actually brew it and drink it. But if you want a darker, richer coffee, you take it into the second crack. You got to be really careful, because when you get to the second crack, it almost sounds like popcorn when it's going off, and your beans are really dry, and you're running the risk of them actually catching on fire. So you can't just push a button, walk away, and go. You have to be here and monitor, listen, and push buttons continuously through the process. So right now my timer is showing I got 9.5 minutes left. In reality, I'm probably going to have to add time to it. A lot of safety features are built into the machine. so that it'll automatically shut down if you don't push a button. If your timer, when it starts flashing, if you don't push a button to keep it going, it's going to assume it's unattended roasting, and it's going to, as a matter of safety, it's just going to shut down. And you're going to have to throw those beans out and start new. So we're going to let it roast for a little bit, keep our ears and eyes open, and hopefully have a nice cup of coffee later on. Okay, I've got about 4.5 minutes left. I don't know if you can see that on the roasting cycle. That's just a ballpark, and I'm starting to smell the coffee. It really smells good. If you've never smelled roasting coffee, I think it smells really good, but it's progressing just fine, and I'm listening for the first crack when we'll start to get into the first crack, where the coffee bean starts cracking. And that varies between beans and moisture content in the beans and stuff, so stay tuned. Alright, my roaster almost reset. I couldn't quite see the numbers flashing, and I had like 20 seconds left to push a button, otherwise it was going to shut down. Glad I caught it in time. See what I mean about unattended roasting? Got to pay attention. I've just heard the first crack or pop, so I think we're right on the cusp of reaching the first crack. I don't know if you can hear it. Kind of a sporadic popping. You hear it? And there's some smokes of puffs of smoke coming out of the back. That would have definitely set off my fire alarm. It's going pretty good. Just going to take it till it starts the second crack. The second crack is going to be more consistent. It's going to be a crackling. Just started the second crack. So I push the cool button. It turns off the heat and speeds up the drum. I'm actually going to open it up, let some heat out. Look at all that chaff blowing everywhere. That's a skin that comes off the bean. So now it's going to sit there and the drum's going to spin. It's just pumping cool air through there, cooling down slowly. And it's going to take about 12 minutes before it stops. And then I'll take it out and put it in a jar. Okay, so the cooling cycle has stopped. So the coffee beans are now done. And you can look in here and see all this chaff, and this is the stuff that flies around, gets on the heating element, makes a lot of smoke. Alright, there's my beans. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can set my camera down and alright. Shake it around a little bit, get some chaff out. Alright. And there's the coffee beans that everyone's probably familiar with. Smells like coffee. Alright. So now there's probably only one way to end this video other than cleaning up my machine. And that's probably with a cup of coffee. But that's later. I think I'll have a summer shandy. Enjoy.